Well, Chris Bowen is back to fueling climate alarmism, not ruling out green tariffs and carbon-intensive imports.
I know you've been looking at the option of Australia imposing a carbon tariff or a carbon border adjustment mechanism, as the Europeans are looking at. What's your thinking on that at the moment?
Well, we've been, again, clear that we want to ensure Australian industry is best placed to compete in a decarbonising world.
And radio legend Ray Hadley's here and he's laughing.
I think he wakes up every morning thinking, what can I do to get in the paper today? What's the headline I need to equate to? I mean, everyone's been jumping up and down about Donald Trump, including us and the tariffs. He says he's doing it to protect Donald Trump, that is, the American industry. So if he puts on building products a tariff, which we send the coal from Australia to Japan, to their coal-fired power stations and their, of course, nuclear plants. They make the steel, they make the aluminium, we bring it back here. He wants to put a tariff on it because the Chinese aren't in accord with us, the way climate change is thought of. So who's the end loser here? The builders, the developers, and those people who are building homes or units. I mean, it's sheer madness. You can't have Anthony Albanese saying, well, hang on a sec, this is silly. We can't do this. We simply can't do it.
It's ridiculous.
And then he comes out for an entirely different reason to meet the ridiculous quota that he wants to do on carbon. I mean, it's just...
But this is also what I'm worried about, Ray. There's going to be all these new tariffs and taxes that were never mentioned in the campaign that will be sprung on us.
Well, the green tariff was never mentioned because he was in witness protection, as I've told you recently.
Yes.
I mean, they hid him from view. And then, remarkably, the people in his electorate gave him an even bigger majority.
Bizarre. They need to watch some more Sky News.
Perhaps we
Hear what
need
you
to
have to say.
get more people out there to identify what Chris Bowen's all about. He's a dill.
No, I've been very critical of Susan Lee's shadow cabinet.
I've heard, yes.
What do you think about this and the people she's dumped and who she's promoted?
Well, it's remarkable that she should say one thing before she was leader and then do exactly the opposite. Now, I heard you earlier talking to Claire about all of this, and I just don't understand how Peter Dutton was punished for being, I guess, anti-women. That's how he was viewed by some in the electorate. There were more women in his shadow cabinet there are in Susan Lee's shadow cabinet, who's been calling for a quota for goodness knows how long. Now, the women that she has dumped, Jacinta Price, I mean, that's the dumbest thing I can possibly think of. Claire Chandler, 35 years of age, brilliant.
Yep.
And then Jane Hume and Sarah Henderson, vastly experienced, older than the other two women. One's 35, one's in her early 40s, and they're talking about generational change. Well, here's a chance. Generational change and 4 very capable women.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't get it.
I think it was a problem when Susan Lee said younger in terms of political experience. I mean, younger is a term that refers to age. So is she saying Sarah Henderson and Jane Hume are too old because they're in their 50s and 60s? And that reinforces a really dangerous view that women lose their value as they get older.
Well, let me say this. Having worked in the media for over 40 years, some of the best people I've worked with have been older people, men and women, and really young ones, men and women. You can't just cast the net and say, she's too old, he's too old, she's too young, she's too inexperienced, because they are on face value. You could hear it tonight on your program, Claire Chandler. She's a brilliant young woman. A brilliant, I don't mean to be derogatory saying a young woman. Compared to me, I'm double her age. But
I love it when you call me young, Ray.
Well, that's because I'm more than double your age, but anyway.
You are not. I wish you.
We won't get into ages, come on. Anyway, so you can't afford to do that. Just send an Jimper Price, for goodness sake.
I know.
They all voted, of course, for Angus, and that's the problem.
That's the issue. They supported Angus Taylor, but yet there were men who supported Angus Taylor who Susan kept in shadow cabinet. So this is a problematic move, and it's going to continue to be problematic. And it wasn't wise politically because now there are so many enemies and people who are upset over it.
Well, I said to you that I don't think Susan will lead them to the next election. I think there'll be things happening in the meantime.
Yep.
And that I'm not denigrating her. She's also a very capable woman, but by judgment, her first few calls have been pretty ordinary.
No, indeed. All right. Well, look, I want to ask you about a couple of international things now. Greta Thunberg now wants to sail into Gaza on a diesel-powered vessel, by the way. If we've got that clip of Greta Thunberg saying that she's ready to go into Gaza to save the day. Here it is.
Hello, I am currently standing on the Madeleine, the ship that on Sunday, June 1st, will attempt to again sail towards Gaza and to try to break the siege and open up a humanitarian corridor by delivering aid like food and medical supplies.
I mean, Ray, shouldn't Israel just give her official transport to Gaza, see how she goes dealing with the Hamas terrorists?
She wants to be a bit careful sailing into... Well, she's not sailing, she's motoring into Gaza, as Andrew Bolt pointed out in his column this morning. But the simple fact of the matter is she might be a bit worried about getting shot by Hamas because they, as you've reported, are shooting people as they go to get aid, which is sent to Gaza by the Israelis. And so, you know, people say they're gunmen. Well, I mean, who else runs around Gaza City with a submachine gun if you're not a member of a terrorist organisation, which is, by the way, the duly elected government and has been for 17 years, Hamas. So, look, she used to drive me mad on climate change. Now she's driving me mad. She's stuck her head into what's happening in Gaza at the moment. And you know, I could care less whether she goes there or doesn't go there. What's she going to take a jar of peanut butter and a loaf of bread or something?
Oh, sorry. And that footage you were just referring to, if we've got it, we can show it as overlay. We can bring it up on the screen. But you know, Israel has set up. No, the Israeli footage. This is drone footage that we're going to show you. Here it is. Yep. Where Israel set up, and this is distressing content. Israel set up a new aid centre and Palestinian masked terrorists, we don't know for sure if they're Hamas or another terrorist group, have been shooting civilians who are going to get aid, Ray. This is what you were referring to just a minute ago.
Yeah, sorry to get ahead of you, but if you're framing a market, it's odds on. It's Hamas. It's odds on. You know, they're there, they're on the ground, and they're killing the people from Gaza to take away the aid that's being trucked in there by Israel. Yeah. I mean... And the mainstream media tends to ignore this. It doesn't happen. No, it's just one lunatic, like the lunatic of the United States of America, you know, doing something to another race of people in that part of the world. No, it's not. They're a terrorist organisation as disclosed by every government, including ours. They won't be decried by Penny Wong or Anthony Albanese. I mean, say it for what it is. They're democratically elected. They're a terrorist organisation. We shouldn't be dealing with them or even, you know, thinking about dealing with them.
No, indeed. Democratically elected back in 2007. About time for another election, I'd say. Ray, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Love
Sharri.
having you on the show. We'll see you next Monday.
I'll be here. Look forward to it. Thanks very much.